I'd like to... thank you. Since we are here to honor Dr. Subramanian Swamy for an exemplary work he's done, not only publishing this book but also taking up the case, I won't take much time, but I've been asked to make a few comments. So before that, we have a message from Swamy Vidatmanan. He was unable to make it. He was supposed to be here, but he's not well, so he asked me to read this message on his behalf. He said, I congratulate Archibald Center and a number of enthusiastic volunteers for organizing the talk of Dr. Subramanian Swamy on Ram Sethu. It is very important that Hindus living in the US become properly informed about some of the important issues concerning the Hindu Dharma and its sacred traditions, because in the words of Dr. Swamy, quote, by all objective counts, Hindus are under siege today, unquote. There seems to be some hidden agenda on the part of some politicians and political groups, as well as some vested interests, to damage the Dharma, and Hindus in the US will be required to actively participate in the struggle to protect Hindu Dharma and its institutions. Dr. Swamy is well informed, scholarly, articulate, and a devout Hindu, and hence a worthy spokesman for the cause of Hindu Dharma. It is heartwarming to see that he has an opportunity to present the issue of Ram Sethu before the Hindus in the US. On this occasion, a book titled Ram Sethu, Symbol of National Unity, is also being released. I was supposed to release this book this evening, but have not been able to be present due to health reasons. I congratulate Dr. Swamy for writing this book, which is thorough in its treatment of various aspects of the Sethu Mundram project. In this book, Dr. Swamy provides history of the SSCP, historicity and heritage around Sethu, economic viability of the project, national security, and other concerns of the environmental implications of this project, and shows how the project is not viable on all counts, and therefore it should be either scrapped or some other alternative should be explored. I wish all success to this event and pray that Dr. Swamy as well as his book reach a wide audience. Signed by Swamy Vidatmanan. Okay. I was also asked to say a few words about the importance of the Ram Sethu, and I'll confess that I'm no expert compared to the expert who is going to be talking on it. So rather than tell you anything about that, and I want to listen to him and learn, because I think it's a very important issue, I have a few remarks regarding why this matters from a perspective of Americans and Indian Americans and Hindus, because there are a lot of mixed up people who feel that we should not get involved in such an issue. We are supposed to be, our religion is about transcending all this and going into some kind of a realm where nothing matters, and there is no such thing as identity, and there is no such thing as it's all Maya anyway. Well, the point is that we are in this phenomenal world. We are in the world of body, mind, action, karma. That is what the whole message of the Gita is, that you have to act the Dharma, you have to perform your duties. So an escapist route is not viable for the common person who is not a renunciant but a householder and living in the world. So I think this kind of an attitude of avoiding it is not a viable attitude. About a month ago, I had some guests from India, and we took them to Washington, D.C. And in touring the city, when you take one of these bus tours, basically what they're showing you is one national monument after another. They're showing you the greatness of the founding fathers, they're showing you the greatness of the history of America, why it's such a great land, what's so special about it. And after 2 days of this touring, my relatives were very impressed by, how beautiful it is and how wonderful it is. So I asked them, why is it that in India we don't have similar national monuments There is a Vietnam Memorial, a Korea War Memorial, an American Revolution Memorial, a memorial to this or that. Why don't we have an 1857 War Memorial? Why don't we have a 1971 War Memorial? Why don't we have a war memorial to Shivaji? Why don't we have a memorial to various great figures in our past? Like the whole Washington is filled with all this. And it's also quite exciting for, to see that there are busloads of school children brought to get stirred up and get inspired. And then these things are not just in physical monuments, but they are written in history books, taught since childhood, the greatness of this country. So from an American point of view, there's nothing embarrassing or odd or wrong about having great respect for such sites in one's culture. Such sites become national or even international sites and are respected. And therefore, that's one way of locating why Ram Sethu is an important thing. Another thing is, if you look at the various disciplines of archaeology, the world of archaeology where they look up old things, if you do a search on the net on biblical archaeology, it's amazing. Biblical archaeology, you'll get thousands of sites. Biblical archaeology. So what exactly is biblical archaeology? It's something about looking for sites in the Middle Eastern locations which have to do with the history as described in the Bible. So they want to look for such evidence and they want to link the dots. Even if there is no evidence somewhere, they want to extrapolate and say, well, it must have been this place. And this is what they might have meant when they wrote this. So there is a modern interpretation which takes the old text as a starting point and takes physical evidence, whatever they can find. Sometimes it's more real, sometimes it's kind of somewhat imagined, and then they try to put it all together and make museums, make tours. There are a lot of these tours to the Holy Lands which take you to these places. It's a tourism business also. So this idea of taking old texts of your religion, combining and using it to drive archaeological discoveries, and then taking these stories that have been made about sacred lands and using it for tourism and using it for education. It's very, very big scale in the biblical world, in the Judeo-Christian world. It's also, of course, very large in the Islamic world. So but somehow a lot of our gurus, especially from Vedanta and Advaita, have gotten this idea that none of this matters, but being kind of is all old-fashioned. And in the quest for showing how lofty our philosophy is, we've sort of become disconnected with the pragmatics of life and become very otherworldly and lofty in that sense. And this makes a group very vulnerable. It makes a group which is devoid of identity and devoid of reason to go and defend a culture and defend a civilization, because we don't even understand why it's valuable. It becomes quite vulnerable in the world today. So the undermining of the Indian civilization has been going on for a while, a couple of centuries, maybe even longer. But in recent last 2-3 decades, it's actually become huge, become very large scale, and last few years even more so. I feel that this is going to intensify. And the attack is coming in many levels. There is an attack on the legitimacy of our old epics, all our old Puranas. There is an attack on sacred sites to try and do different things to different sites. I don't know how many of you are aware, but the Ganga is no longer actually a river, it's a lake, because the dam turns Ganga into a lake. I've been there, I've seen the whole site. And for Har Ki Pauri in Haridwar, a small amount of the water goes so that place always has water, and people can feel and bathe in the Ganga there. But the year-long Ganga, mighty Ganga on a massive scale going through the whole land, has pretty much been dammed and turned into electricity and water supply for Delhi and things like that. So there is a lot going on of this kind. Some of it is man-made, some of it is not done by man, but it is natural, like the Galmukh glacier is pretty much melted away. So that's also feeding the Ganga as a source is a problem. There is also an attack on gurus, from Ramakrishna to Sri Aurobindo to various gurus are under attack. Swami Muktanand, Prabhupada, very seriously undermined and attacked. There was an attack on deities, Shiva and Krishna and Ganesh and Kali and various, and an attack on symbols, Hindu symbols. So this attack is very multifaceted, and the attack is not sort of random individuals here and there, but people in very important institutions, higher education, powerful funding agencies organizing it, media giving it some spin and covering it. So in the wake of all that, you need leaders like Dr. Subramanian Swamy, and there's very few who have clarity, you will see it, who have thoroughness, so they're not just giving some one-liners, but they can substantiate it with enormous amount of detail, enough to go to fight in a Supreme Court case or any place like that, who have the rigor of documentation, logic, and their heart in the right place, and no fear. So these characteristics are very rare to find. It is much easier to teach a very idealized, lofty, escapist spiritualism which is disconnected with daily engagement that we all have to do. It's very easy to do that. It's a lot harder to bring that kind of dharma into daily life, including things which may not be very easy or comfortable to do, but which are necessary to do. So with that short account of why I feel this whole event is important, I'd like to we'd like to release the book. So somebody should, I would like to invite Dr. Swamy also, and we will and I'm going to request Dr. Swamy to later on sign my copy of the book. So I'll just read the front jacket. I think it's very remarkable. The author's study of Ram Sethu covers all the aspects of historical, economic, environmental, and national study of the Sethu Samudram ship channel project. He opposes the rupture of Ram Sethu to dredge out a seabed furrow in the Palk Strait and Gulf of Mannar. He terms the project SSCP as a financial white elephant. Despite the lack of economic viability, the environmental damages, and the national security risks of the project, he argues that in choosing to design the SSCP based on destructive channel route, the government has betrayed our ancient civilization and Sanatan Dharma. The legendary bridge of coral reefs and rocks was built according to the Ramayana on the direction of Lord Rama. That such a causeway of coral rocks and reefs exists has been established by modern satellite photographs. That it was a constructed causeway and not a natural formation was established by the investigations conducted by the Geological Survey of India, which report has so far been hidden from the public by the government. Hence, the author argues that it is essential now to set up an independent multidisciplinary investigative committee of experts to rectify this serious lapse on the part of the government. Thank you very much.